For 8 years I went from being a princess to a maid. My son Jack finds me annoying and calls me a worthless freeloader. My husband Daniel thinks I'm outdated, too slow to keep up with him, and an embarrassment in his social circle. Fine. I'm done. School runs. Not my problem. Laundry. Cooking. Figure it out yourself. So tell me, Daniel, how's life treating you now that the house is in chaos? Enjoying the mess. The first day I stopped being their unpaid servant, the house fell into chaos. Everyone was looking for me. Mom, where's my craft project? Jack hollered. Sarah. It's almost 9. Why didn't you wake me up? Daniel barked. I rolled over in bed, didn't even lift an eyelid, and pretended I didn't hear a thing. Fuming, Daniel ripped the covers off me and roared, Sarah, what the hell? You're lying there like a corpse, no breakfast, no nothing. What do you think you're doing? Without missing a beat, I threw his own written promise right in his face. Daniel, are you trying to back out on this? His face flushed red instantly. With no time to argue, he rushed out the door. Watching him leave with mismatched socks and his shirt buttons done all wrong, I nearly burst out laughing. Then there was Jack. He searched high and low, his frustration growing. Damn it. Where's my project? His mouth complained, but his eyes kept darting toward me. Normally I'd have had everything packed and ready for him before he even asked. But not today. Not anymore. Maybe he overheard my conversation with Daniel because for once he didn't storm into my room. Instead his whining just got louder. If I'm late, Mrs. Luce is going to be mad. Where the hell is my project? Damn it. Oh. He was definitely talking loud enough for me to hear. I finally got up, walked out of my room and took one look at his disaster of a bedroom. Before I could say a word, Jack shot me a glare. Mom, hurry up and help me find it. I'm gonna be late. I walked right past him without a word. Then just before I stepped out, I threw him a little reminder. If you're late, then move faster. Or are you waiting for a rocket to take you to school? His face turned beet red. He gaped at me in disbelief, mouth hanging open, ready to argue. But after one glance at the clock, he grabbed his backpack and bolted. Hilarious. Weren't they the ones who thought I was useless? Fine. From now on they can enjoy a life without their personal maid. Once they were out the door, I finally had a peaceful morning. Or so I thought. Halfway through brushing my teeth, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I didn't even need to check. Of course, it was Daniel. I ignored it and kept brushing. Then it rang again, more urgent this time. Sarah, my file. I think I left it at home. Can you find it for me? The second I picked up, his voice was tense, almost desperate. Every day. It was something: his keys, his files, his wallet. I reminded him a million times, but he never listened. And when he forgot, somehow it was always my fault for not reminding him. So I'd given up and just packed his things for him every morning. I thought he'd be grateful. Instead, I overheard him bragging to his friends, see? Women need to be put in their place. If you don't keep them in check, they stop listening. Well then, I was just following his advice. Let's see how well he listens now. Daniel, just how stupid are you? How many times have I told you to check your files before leaving? Do you not understand plain English? And one more thing, I'm busy. Don't waste my time. I'm not delivering your damn documents. Then I hung up. Just like that. And wow, nothing wakes you up better than telling Daniel off first thing in the morning. The pent-up frustration? Gone. I felt lighter already. But Daniel wasn't about to give up that easily. My phone buzzed with message after message. Sarah, enough. Don't push your luck. Sarah, hurry up. My manager is breathing down my neck. Sarah? Are you still there? Can you at least check? For the love of God, I'm begging you. Then the final message. A photo of a check. Bring me the file and this is yours. Oh. Well, since he's putting it that way for the money, I guess I can make an exception. Right after dropping off his file, I got a call from Jack's teacher, Mrs. Lucy. Hello, Mrs. Spencer. Could you come to the school? It's urgent. I rushed to the school, only to be met by Jack launching himself at me, sobbing hysterically. Mommy, I'm sorry. Please don't hit me. I know you're mad, but you didn't have to rip up my project. I froze. Then I met Jack's sly little gaze, and just like that I understood. That little brat. He must be trying to pin his own mistakes on me to avoid getting scolded for being late. Oh, you wanna play games with me? Fine. Let's play. I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him to the side, pressing him against the wall. Mrs. Lucy rushed over. Mrs. Spencer, please. No need to be harsh. You should talk things out with him. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit play on a video. That stupid project. Mrs. Lucy is such an annoying old hag. Just looking at her makes me want to puke. On screen, Jack was prancing around the living room, mimicking her with exaggerated expressions, making faces, acting out her lessons like a little comedian. Honestly, he did a pretty solid impression. Mrs. Lucy's face darkened instantly. Still, she forced a smile, a tight, painful one that looked harder to pull off than actual tears. Jack is usually a very good student. Just a little mischievous. I shook my head and, for extra effect, pulled up my sleeve, revealing a faint bruise. Then I let my voice tremble as I wiped at imaginary tears. I wasn't going to say anything, but Jack has been getting out of hand lately. Mom, don't listen to her, Mrs. Lucy. She's making it up. I never. Yes, Mrs. Lucy, you're absolutely right. It's my fault. I should have let Jack play video games as much as he wanted. I failed as a mother. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Lucy's gaze softened with sympathy. She patted my arm and offered some comforting words. I nodded, sniffled a little more for effect, thanked her profusely, then took Jack's hand and walked out of the school with long, confident strides. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Jack staring up at me, both furious and stunned. For the first time I felt nothing, not even a twinge of guilt, because this kid was spoiled rotten, and it was about time I fixed that. With them out of my hair, I treated myself. A long spa day. A luxurious bath. Shopping sprees. I used to be pampered like this all the time before marriage, before Daniel got comfortable. Back then he cherished me. He respected my choices. Never pressured me into anything I didn't want to do. He swore before God that he would love me forever, that he would always put me first. But after we got married, he let out a sigh of relief, as if dropping an exhausting performance. The careful attention turned into expectations. The adoration faded into indifference. He stopped making an effort. I told myself that was normal. Marriage wasn't a fairy tale. So I threw myself into being a good wife, a good mother. Jack was my everything, my blood, my legacy. I dedicated myself to him. Made sure he had the best of everything. And in the end, they both turned around and treated me like a burden. Mom, your fashion sense is non-existent. Sarah, can you stop chewing so loudly? It's disgusting. Day after day, under their constant criticism, my self-esteem eroded. I lost all confidence, lost myself. At some point I even started hearing things. Walking through crowds, I could feel imaginary judgmental stares piercing through me. That suffocating moment, panic gripped me, and I fled. I had tried once to talk to Daniel about getting a job, about changing my environment. But every time he refused with the same excuse. Jack is still too young. Someone needs to take care of the house. Was that true? Did the house really need me? Daniel had a thriving career. Jack was already in elementary school. The only one trapped at home was me. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, my face growing dull, my spirit drained. Then I looked at Daniel, strong, thriving, untouched by time. The contrast sent a wave of dread through me. No, I refuse to be a woman without dignity. I refuse to live like this. I refuse. Before I knew it, I was back home. As soon as I opened the door, I found the two of them sitting on the couch, wearing identical stern expressions. Perfect timing, Daniel said. We need to settle some accounts. Why settling accounts? What they really meant was teaming up to tear me down. Jack whined that because of me, Mrs. Lucy had kept him after school for detention. He had to stay until everyone else had gone home. Daniel complained that his boss had chewed him out, docked his bonus, and crushed his chances of a promotion. Listening to them, you'd think I was the villain who had single-handedly ruined their lives. I had enough. I shot up from the couch. Fine, I said. I'll fix everything. I promise. Their faces instantly lit up. Then slowly, deliberately, I placed a notebook on the table and flipped it open. I end that case. Let's go over my schedule. I cleared my throat and began. I wake up at 6 a.m. By 6:30 breakfast is ready. At 8 I drop Jack off at school. By 9 I start housework. Jack frowned, confused. Why are you telling us this? I ignored him and kept going. When I finished listing every chore I did from morning until night, I looked straight at them and asked, I've done this every single day for years. Every task I do takes time, effort, and energy. Now tell me, how should we settle this account? Jack scratched his head awkwardly. Other moms don't keep track like this. A mother's love is supposed to be unconditional. Unconditional. I almost laughed. So motherhood was just a convenient excuse, a phrase used to guilt me into sacrificing everything without complaint. Something they could throw in my face whenever they needed me to do more. Fine. If we're comparing, let's go all the way. I crossed my arms and looked down at Jack. Other kids help their moms. Other kids appreciate them. What have you done for me? Throwing tantrums. Disrespecting me? Acting like I was their personal servant. They hadn't just taken me for granted. They had trampled me into the ground. Did he forget that I almost died giving birth to him? That I had nearly suffered an amniotic embolism on the operating table just to bring him into this world? And now, this son of mine dared to lecture me about love. Jack's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But no words came out. He had nothing to say. Daniel, seeing his son lose the battle, yanked him aside and turned to me. Sarah, he's just a kid. Do you really need to emotionally blackmail him? Emotionally blackmail. Coming from him. Now that was rich. Fine. No more empty words. Let's talk numbers. I leaned in, my voice calm. Daniel, this house. I bought it. You never paid a cent. You've lived here for 10 years. How do we settle that? His face turned red. He fumbled for a response. But I paid for the household expenses. Oh, this was about to get even funnier. I tilted my head. Household expenses? You mean the $500 a month you contribute? What do you think this is, 1950? Do you think the world runs on charity? I pulled out every single receipt for the month's expenses and laid them on the table. The total? $390.45. Daniel's face paled. Hilarious that he had no clue how expensive running a household was. If not for my savings and the little money I made from stock investments, I wouldn't have lasted on the pathetic amount he gave me every month. He struggled for a comeback. Then suddenly his eyes lit up like he had found his golden argument. Sarah, I know you work hard. That's why I always buy you gifts for the holidays. Do we really have to put a price on gifts too? Gifts? Oh, he wanted to go there. The cheap buy one get one free makeup sets. The ones where he gave the full-sized version to his mother and repackaged the freebie as my gift. Once I caught him in the act. And instead of being ashamed, he actually had the audacity to say, "You don't wear makeup anyway. Why waste the big one on you?" Before marriage I never noticed how stingy he was. But after? Oh, I saw everything clearly. Especially when I watched him throw money around like a king in front of his colleagues. Expensive wines? Opened without hesitation. Huge tips for waiters? No problem. But me, I was the one he cut corners on. And yet, he had the nerve to criticize me after childbirth, saying I'd let myself go. That he refused to introduce me to his friends. Instead he told them I was his cousin. But he was a moron. Because his colleagues had met me before. Even though we hadn't seen them in a while, they still remembered my face. So one night at a party after a few drinks, someone called him out. "Why the hell are you lying about your own wife?" Daniel's face turned an ugly shade of red. He made some excuse, then left me there. I didn't have enough cash on me. I tried calling him. No answer. In the end, I walked 7 blocks to get home. That night I made up my mind that I was going to take my life back. Now, sitting across from me, Daniel mistook my silence for defeat. His confidence returned. He even put on an air of generosity. "Sarah, I know you've been in a bad mood lately. Let's just put this behind us, alright? I won't hold it against you as long as you know." No, this wasn't my fault. It was my fault for not making things clear enough. I smiled and cut him off. "Daniel, you don't have to say another word. From now on, household chores have nothing to do with me." Jack panicked. He grabbed Daniel's arm. "Dad, what do we do now?" Daniel, ever so smug, shrugged and flashed me a confident smile. "Sarah, do you really think I can't handle you?" Just then the doorbell rang. Daniel walked to the door with a smile. The moment I saw who was standing there, my stomach dropped. Anna. My mother-in-law. A sharp, shrewd and cheap woman. The last person I wanted in my home. Daniel had promised me she wouldn't just show up unannounced. Yet here she was. I forced a smile. "Anna," before I could even finish, he shrieked. "Daniel, what did I tell you from the beginning? You and Sarah were never a good match. Just look at this house. How can you two even stand living like this?" I didn't back down. Instead I pushed Jack toward her. "Jack, why don't you go ahead and clean up your mess?" Jack's face scrunched up and he immediately turned to his grandmother, whining, "Grandma, Mom keeps making me do chores. Aren't you going to say something?" I crossed my arms and looked at Anna. "Anna, look at him. I've spoiled him rotten. Clearly, I'm not doing a great job raising him. But now that you're here, you can take over." Before she could respond, I spun on my heels and walked back into my room. Behind me, Anna's high-pitched voice rang through the house. Oh, my dear boy. Don't worry, Grandma is here. Mommy won't dare to treat you badly anymore. The next morning I was rudely awakened by a loud banging on my door. Sarah. Where do you keep the eggs and vegetables? Anna's voice was sharp, but her eyes weren't focused on me. She was scanning my room. Like a vulture, her gaze flitted from corner to corner, hunting for anything valuable. I barely shook off the morning haze before replying, there's no food in the house. Anna blinked, pretending to be surprised. Really? None at all. She was fishing for information. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I whipped out Daniel's promise, the one he had signed. I held it up. You see this? Your son said I was a useless, good-for-nothing freeloader. That he and Jack could survive just fine without me. I shrugged. So now, this freeloader has officially quit. Anna's face twitched. She tried to put on a sympathetic act. Oh, Sarah. Couples fight all the time. You shouldn't take things so seriously, but I saw it in her eyes. Contempt. That same disdainful look she gave me the first time we met. Back then she had judged me instantly. I wasn't good enough for her son. I had too many flaws. But the moment she found out I owned a Manhattan apartment, her attitude changed overnight. She even went to a real estate agency to inquire about its value. And when she learned how fast it was appreciating, she suddenly had a suggestion. She wanted me to add Daniel's name to the property title. And hers. What a joke. Adding Daniel's name was one thing, but why the hell would I add hers? The only reason I even considered marrying Daniel back then was because at the time he had treated me well. But even after I became her daughter-in-law, Anna never let it go. She went around telling everyone that I was some pitiful charity case, that her son only married me out of pity. How hilarious. Daniel had been flat broke when we got married. We couldn't even afford a wedding. And now? She wanted to act high and mighty. I stayed silent, watching her. Realizing I wasn't budging, Anna finally dropped the pretense. Her voice turned cold. Sarah, a woman like you, I cut her off. What? Daniel should divorce me? Or are you going to hit me? Her face twisted in fury. You. Anna lifted her hand, ready to slap me. I sidestepped, smooth, effortless. She lost her balance and fell hard. Daniel lunged forward, yanking me aside before dropping to his knees beside his mother, his face contorted with fury. Sarah, what the hell is wrong with you? Jack, at some point, had crept up beside him, holding up his phone, recording everything. So this was a setup. The three of them working together to frame me. How cute. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching their pitiful performance. Want me to call 911? I asked, smirking. Or would you rather I drive you to the hospital myself? Anna, who just seconds ago had been too weak to stand, suddenly gripped Daniel's arm with full force and barked, Daniel, take me to the hospital. I don't want to see this woman ever again. Jack, the loyal little accomplice, trailed after them. As he passed, he flashed me his phone, his lips curling into a smug grin. Oh, I got the message that he had recorded the whole thing and was threatening me with it. I sighed dramatically. Go ahead. Do your worst. While they were busy putting on their show at the hospital, I finally checked my phone. My notifications were flooded. I didn't need to guess. Jack had probably sent the video to every relative and friend we had, rallying them to attack me. How adorable. Too bad for them, I wasn't alone. They only had 3 people. I had an army. Not long after, chaos erupted. One by one, debt collectors stormed IN.AT my signal. They surrounded Daniel, boxing him. IN.MR. Spencer, your son's tennis lessons total bill is $13,000. Time to pay up. Sir, today's the deadline for your golf club membership. Where's the payment? The demands came one after another, each more relentless than the last. Daniel didn't even have time to breathe, let alone defend himself. He was pushed and shoved, drowning under the weight of his own financial mess. Anna, watching her son getting swarmed, panicked. Thinking I had hired thugs to rough him up, she charged forward to get away from my son. All of you, get out. The debt collectors reacted instantly. They jumped back, keeping a safe 2-meter distance, and whipped out their phones. If Anna tried to accuse them of anything, they'd have video proof that she was the one charging at them. Now the real fun began. Anna, alive and kicking, stood in the center of the chaos, shouting and arguing with everyone in sight. Where was the helpless old lady who had just collapsed in agony? Gone. Poof. Instead, she looked stronger than ever, bickering with a dozen people at once. And then Daniel's phone started ringing. I watched. Arms folded as his expression twisted. He answered, his voice frantic. No, no, this is a misunderstanding. My mom's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. Yes, Jack was just playing around, he was joking. That video wasn't real. It's all fine now. Daniel, I knew him better than anyone. Nothing was worse for him than losing face if his relatives and colleagues found out about his mother faking an injury and his mountain of unpaid debts. It would be a bigger blow than death. Meanwhile, the debt collectors weren't leaving empty-handed, with their recordings as leverage. They took their time lining up, each patiently waiting their turn to collect what they were owed. Daniel's face drained of all color. I leaned in, lowered my voice just enough for only him to hear, and whispered, "Too late for regrets now. This was justice. There was no need for me to get my hands dirty. There were plenty of people willing to do it for me." As Daniel glared at me, his jaw clenched so tight it might snap, he spat out through gritted teeth, "Just you wait." I waited in my own house for a week, expecting Daniel to follow up on his empty threats. Nothing. But I didn't just sit around. I found a job, nothing too fancy, but at least it let me interact with people again. And for the first time in years, I felt alive. I was glowing, radiant, full of energy. Then, out of nowhere, my boss called me in for a chat. He smiled awkwardly and said I might not be the best fit for the job. Maybe you should take some time off, focus on your health, recover. My health. Something didn't feel right. I pressed him for an explanation. He hesitated. Then, finally, he let something slip. I heard you've been struggling with, depression. Maybe it's best if you take it easy. A thunderclap rang in my ears. I immediately pulled out my recent medical report. Perfectly clean. My boss frowned. That's strange, this doesn't match the report I saw. We compared them. And there it was. The other report, the one that claimed I had severe postpartum depression, was real, but the date had been altered. Someone had dug up my old medical history and faked the date to make it look current. And I didn't need to guess who did it. Back then, after I gave birth to Jack, I had no help. No one to care for me, no one to support me. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, drowning. That's when I developed postpartum depression. And it was during that time that Daniel suggested I become a full-time housewife. Now, years later, he was weaponizing that pain against me. Find out if he wanted to play dirty, then let's both get messy. I stormed into Daniel's office, arriving just as he was entertaining important clients. Perfect. I walked up to him, all smiles, and slipped my arm through his. "Darling," I purred. Daniel froze, his face turning a shade of ashen horror. I could see it. He was seconds away from calling me his sister again. Too late. He yanked me aside, hissing, "Not here. Whatever you want to say, well, talk at home." Home? Oh no, we were having this conversation right here. Loud and clear. I tightened my grip on his sleeve and tilted my head, eyes wide with distress. "Darling, am I sick? Am I dying?" Daniel stiffened. "What the hell are you talking about?" I raised my voice, letting everyone hear. "Daniel, please don't lie to me. Everyone says you sent them my medical report. They say I have severe depression and suicidal tendencies." The clients immediately took several steps back, their faces wary. They looked like they were one wrong move away from running. Daniel's sweat dripped. "That's ridiculous. None of that is true." But it was too late. His clients were spooked. One of them forced a polite smile, muttered, "Well, discuss this another time." And then, they bolted. Daniel watched in horror as his precious deal crumbled before his eyes. Gone. Shattered. He turned to me. His fury barely contained, grabbed my wrist and dragged me toward the exit. The moment his fingers closed around me, I flinched dramatically, crouching down, covering my head, and then I wailed, "Oh my God, Daniel. Please don't hit me." Every head in the office snapped toward us. Whispers. Stares. Phones hovering in the air. The perfect audience. "Sarah, what do you want?" Daniel demanded, utterly bewildered. I stared at him, cold and unyielding. What do I want? Did he really not know? He was the one who had promised I could go back to work once Jack was older. He was the one who had sworn that life would be just fine without me. And yet he was the one who had tried to shatter my future, sabotage my plans, and drag my name through the mud. Now, I was simply returning the favor. News of Daniel's wife suffering from severe depression spread like wildfire throughout the company. Even the CEO pulled him aside, hinting that this wasn't a good look. With no way out, Daniel was forced to publicly clarify the situation, waving around my medical report in an attempt to fix his reputation. But it was too late. No one knew the full truth. But one thing was certain, Daniel Spencer was tainted. And it wasn't just at work. The neighbors whispered. My former boss heard about it. And every single person took my side. I thought maybe, just maybe, Daniel would finally wake up. That this would force him to reflect. That had finally learned to respect the sacrifices of a stay-at-home wife and mother. But no. What I got instead was divorce papers. I wasn't afraid of divorce. What I feared was Jack growing up without love. So despite everything, I set aside my resentment and went to see him. The moment Jack saw me, his face twisted with disgust as if I were some kind of filth contaminating his space. What are you doing here, you disgusting bitch? Get lost. The words hit me like a knife to the gut. In his eyes, a mother was no different from a maid. And a maid was the lowest of the LOW. My hand reaching for him froze in midair before slowly dropping to my side. I wanted to tell myself it didn't hurt, that I was stronger than this. But my heart twisted in agony. The pain sharp and suffocating. Fighting back tears, I forced myself to speak. Jack, your father wants a divorce. I had expected shock, or at least confusion. Instead, Jack clapped his hands, grinning ear to ear. Finally. A woman like you doesn't deserve to be my mom. You should have left a long time ago. Now I can get a new mom. A bitter taste filled my mouth. So this was how it was going to be. Fine. If he had made up his mind, then I'd grant his wish. I wiped my tears and turned to leave. Just as I reached the door, I hesitated. One last look. Just once. And that's when I saw her. A woman standing close to Jack, her arm draped over his shoulders. Jack, what do you want for dinner tonight? I'll make it for you. Ooh, lemon chicken. I love your cooking. Her voice was sweet, feminine, warm. Then she turned, and the second our eyes met, her smile faltered for just a split second. Her face stiffened. I knew her. And she knew me. Melody, Daniel's first love. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but I beat her to it. So, you're the woman Daniel spent 3 years chasing? Melody blinked, then quickly recovered. Sarah, don't misunderstand. I'm not the reason your marriage fell apart. I let out a quiet laugh. Did it even matter? If it wasn't her, then it would have been someone else. A man like Daniel would always remarry. And Melody, sensing the shift in my expression, took her next step carefully. That said, she exhaled lightly, almost as if confessing something intimate. I do still love him. There it was. The real dagger. Melody was no fool. She wasn't here to gloat. She was here to assert her place. To make sure I knew Daniel had moved on. Was it her looks? Her body? Her personality? Or maybe Daniel loved her because she was just like him. I didn't argue. I simply told Melody about Jack's allergies and the foods he didn't like, hoping she would take care of him properly. But before I could finish, Jack shoved me hard. Mind your own business, you evil witch. Melody is my real mom. Something inside me snapped. I had tolerated his disrespect. I had endured his ungratefulness. But hearing him reject me as his mother, that I could never forgive. Melody smiled, ever so graceful. Sarah, don't worry. I may not have given birth to Jack, but I'll love him like my own. I stared at her, then smiled calmly. I just hope you won't regret this someday. Then I turned and walked away. The divorce battle was anything but smooth. Daniel wanted everything. The house. The money. The car. His reasoning. Sarah used to have depression. She's mentally unstable. Even Jack doesn't want to live with her. So I should get more. How laughable. The house. That was mine. He never paid a cent. The money. I had bank records and receipts proving how little he ever gave me. I had been a housewife for years. Why would I owe him anything? I wanted to shove every bill I had into his mouth and make him swallow them whole. But the most infuriating part. Jack. In court, he testified against me. He called me lazy, said I was a terrible mother, claimed I abused him, starved him, and never took care of him. Ungrateful. Selfish. Rotten. That's what they were, father and son. Find out if that was how he wanted it. I would grant his wish. I agreed to give Daniel full custody. But I refused to accept a single one of Jack's accusations. I pulled out years of photos, videos, and voice recordings, memories of us together. I had been planning to turn them into a scrapbook for Jack's 10th birthday, a way to cherish his childhood. Now, they had become evidence of my innocence. A cruel irony. As the videos played, Jack's expression shifted. He saw the moments of us laughing together. He heard his own voice, giggling, calling me mommy. His eyes turned red. But then he glanced at Melody standing behind Daniel, and just like that he turned away. He had made his choice, and my heart shattered into dust. I could have ended the case instantly. I had stronger evidence. I had a winning hand, but I held back. Not because I was weak. Because I was still a mother that I didn't want Jack to see in court. What a disgusting man his father truly was. And more importantly, I wasn't going to let them off easily. For 8 years I had been trapped in their hell. Now, it was their turn to suffer, so I stretched out the case month after month. And just as I expected, Daniel broke first. Tired, frustrated, desperate to move on, he finally let go of his demands that in the end I lost only my son. But I kept everything else. Not long after the divorce, I heard that Daniel had remarried, that he even went out of his way to send me an invitation. I stared at it. My emotions a tangled mess. Was this his way of mocking me? Trying to make me regret leaving? I couldn't tell. But unlike him, I wasn't petty. I took off my wedding ring, placed it inside the envelope along with the invitation, and sent it back. I added a note, returning to its rightful owner. The past was the past. I was moving forward. Months later, Jack came to me crying. His face was pale, hollowed, worn down, but I felt nothing. "Mom, I was wrong," he sobbed. "Melody is horrible. After she had her own son, she started tormenting me. She makes me do all the housework. And she hits me all the time. Mom, please save me." I almost laughed. So now he needs me. After throwing me away like trash, after choosing someone else, he was only coming back because he was being treated badly. How pathetic. Truth was, the first time I met Melody, I had already sensed something off. As someone who had been pregnant before, I recognized the signs. She had been wearing a compression belt to hide her baby bump, at least 5 months along. But my private investigator found out that Melody had only been back in the country for 4 months. And Daniel? He hadn't traveled anywhere in that time. Which meant that baby wasn't his. I had kept this little secret to myself. Instead, I dragged out the divorce battle, waiting for the truth to surface. And sure enough, her baby came early. Daniel had thought he could recapture the beauty of his first love, that he would have Melody back in her perfect form. But what he failed to realize was, childbirth changes a woman. And no matter how stunning she once was, she would go through the same postpartum struggles I had. And someone like Melody, a woman who lived for vanity and deception, she would never let Daniel get away with being an absent husband. As for Jack, he was never her child. And because of that, she would never truly care for him. But I didn't tell him any of this. I simply looked at him and said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." Jack stood there, his eyes hollow, body trembling. He watched as I walked away, his knees buckling, yet he didn't move. Daniel and Melody divorced. Because of my anonymous letter. Word was, their marriage ended in a violent brawl. Daniel had physically assaulted her. But Melody never called the cops. If she hadn't been caught cheating, I was sure she would have tried to have him arrested instead. But Daniel didn't escape unscathed either. Even after their divorce, everyone knew what had happened. Wherever he went, people whispered, laughed, mocked him. He tried several times to send people to reach out to me. He wanted to talk. To apologize. To fix things. I gave him only one answer. Never. Not in this lifetime. Everything that had happened he brought upon himself. And I was finally free. I had escaped the shadow of being a housewife. I had reclaimed my life. I was finally, unapologetically myself.